Record. There we go. Okay. So welcome to week, whatever it is, 3 of Weekly Discovery Mozart. So we're going to do the minuet and the finale, the Allegro vivace. Now there's not a lot to do in the minuet. We'll probably spend most of the time in the last movement because there are some tricky little things. But the minuet for us really is just quite easy and fun, which is great. My favorite kind of movement, really. But first of all, let's just have a little tune, maybe, and a little bit of a warm up, because there are some big stretches in this, so it is good to just be a little bit careful with the way you warm up, just so that you can have fun playing it for longer, really. So anyway, here's an A. I don't know if it's very good, but I think it's fine. Is the original sound not on? Is that what's happening? Right. Thanks for reminding me. How's this? Good. Always treat your tuning like good slow bow practice as well, right? It's always a good idea. Okay, great. So this minuet, as those of you who were here when Catherine Manson gave her guest lecture might remember that she said pretty much the key to the entire piece is all in the minuet. I have since found it to be true, funnily enough. Turns out she knew what she was talking about. But here, right at the beginning, well, first of all, we immediately have arguably a little chromatic line, right, from the G to the A flat. And then all we're missing is the A natural going to the B flat in bar 5. So already we have chromatic material. Also, we have in the second bar, we have the same harmony that we have in bar 5 of the first movement, which is the supertonic, right? It's this. With the tonic pedal. So, in fact, it may seem to you like it's maybe A flat major, but it's not. It's actually F minor with the E flat, which, as I've been saying, I think adds a bit of sort of nostalgic tint to it. In any case, perhaps the second bar needs to be a bit more emphatic than the first. Or should I say even more emphatic than the first, because of course the first needs to be emphatic. I would do quite a big, long, fast bow. And then perhaps a slightly slower bow for the A flat, just to make it a bit more intense. I do like it on the open G string. It sounds more open and friendly and welcoming and inviting. The A flat doesn't need vibrato, but it's why not? And then this seems to me a nice diminuendo shape, right? Bar 5. So start it down bow. A flat has to be down bow. Well, I think so. Oh wait, sorry, no, A flat has to be low. Sorry, it says low. No, I think it probably just needs to be bang in the middle of where A flat is, because it is, after all, just a perfect fourth from E flat. So it should be pure as the E flat is. Whoever has a C in the chord can make that a little bit lower, because that's the major third, if you're thinking of it in A flat major.
Maybe it's the G that has to be sharp then, but we can't because we're playing an open string.
Well, actually, no. The G should be sort of slightly low, if anything, or everyone else a little bit sharper, because you want the major third in the chord to be a little bit flatter. And if it's a minor third in the chord, you want it to be a little bit sharper. So here we're on the major third. So if anything, the A flat should be quite far from the G. But this also needs to be negotiated with the quartet. It's basically it depends on how they play it as well.
I just hear the G as a leading note into the A flat, so it doesn't matter. It's a different way of hearing it.
Yes, yes. I think you always have to take into consideration that the audience doesn't know what the second bar is yet. So in terms of, I mean, as far as they know, we have this at the beginning, and it doesn't necessarily imply this, or sort of both of those chords at the same time. Does it really lead in? I mean, I suppose it does. I prefer to think of it as just really just two statements, and both of sort of one of hope, really. It's very, very optimistic. It's sort of, that's the harmony we're doing. And then, so the resolution, slightly heavier down bow, and always a little slight slow bow. Always try with a slower bow. And that doesn't mean bulge. Very important that you don't go. So don't start the note and increase. It must start immediately, like a bell. And then how long you sustain it for is entirely up to you, but it must have that clear beginning. And this is a very, very surprising moment here. And just this is what bar is this? 11, 10, 9, 8. Bar 8 into bar 9. It's basically just a really long forte piano, isn't it? You just really, really, really heavy, and then really take off the weight in the next bar, which is quite a difficult thing to do. And now these don't underestimate these little crotchets. You know, they seem easy, but don't forget you are the drum beat, essentially. Right, you are the beginning of each bar, so again it has to be slightly percussive. And basically this comes down to those bites that we were doing. It's always a good idea to train up to do your bites in the morning. When you do your slow bows, do your bites as well. Right, there's one. And I'm sure this is good for all instruments, not just the cello. But your up bow one at the tip needs to be as strong as your down bow. Of course, it never can be quite as strong. So what you want to do is slightly lighten your down bow one and make sure your up bow is much heavier. And here's a gentle one. If you can do them really hard like that, then all you do here is just do the same thing a little bit lighter. So, and if you notice, I keep the finger down to keep it resonating for the whole bar. That is not an unconscious decision, not just because resonance is nice. It's because the harmony is the same for the whole bar. It's a bit like on the piano, you're holding the pedal down for the whole bar. On the piano, you would only clean the pedal or lift the pedal when the harmony changes, so as not to blur harmonies together. So same thing here, we've got the same harmony for the whole bar, so let it ring on. As long as the beginning is percussive, the rest of it can be resonant. And then here we have one of our nice pedal notes that we were so used to from Haydn. Exactly the same way as I would do it in Haydn. I would just be very, very involved for the whole note. Enjoy it, the whole thing, and don't play it without imagining what the others are doing. So the first violin has this sort of celebratory, and it's a piano here. So it has to be obviously not too loud, but it has to still be involved. Don't think just because we're piano, I'm just going to float it. We must be involved here. We are not blending. We are not sitting in an orchestra. And if you can, try to find some shape, find the natural shape that the bow gives you over this long note. you'll find that every bow has its own individual shape to it. And every bow will have a slightly different decay, natural decay to it. Don't try and force it, try to actually let the bow do the work. It's a nice way to do it. Just allow the bow to do what it's designed to do, which is decay, actually, when you're doing a down bow. And then we just have more of these bites. Now the forte crotchets are just exactly the same, just use fast bow, quite a fast bow. Make sure you're really in the string with the teeth. Right, you've got your bite, but then you can be really quite fast once you've got that. And you get your forte. And then of course just little delicate. You can of course bring out 24 a little bit more if you like to show this rising shape. This at the end in bar 26, right, the very last octave that finishes the phrase. We get it so much, you get it at the end of the minuet as well, of course, so much in classical music where the cello has the last note of the piece and everyone else has already finished. Actually a hell of a responsibility if you think about it. That means you're ending the piece every time. The cellist has the final say. Of course, the bottom note is where the piece finishes, right? The top note is a formality. It's a bit like, if something grinds to a halt, there's always an extra little bit of momentum before it really finishes. We know it's going to stop, but there's always an extra little bit of physics involved, if you want to think of it that way. So they are two very little bites. The down bow just make it much more resonant than the up bow. So generous down bow. And the up bow, just think of it as very lightly tickling. You tickle the up bow, tickle the A string with the bow, but even though it's very, very light, it's still a bite. You can hear the very beginning of the note. That is very, very, very important, that it's not a w sound, that it's a t sound. We don't want that. We want. It's very, very difficult to do, and see if you can get it in one circular motion like this. It should be a nice circular motion like that. Like that. Has to be practiced. That I find that quite a bit. Otherwise, I find that if I squeak it or if I mess it up, I'm very, very much embarrassed because everybody remembers it because it's the end of the phrase. Right, now. This next bit was one of those bits where the others tried to persuade me to put a bowing in, and I just would not be persuaded because it's just a bunch of notes. I mean, I don't care what bowing it is. I mean, if anything, they should all be down bows or they should all be up bows or something. They should all be. It should be like a sort of woodwind section, right? Just sort of making sounds. That bowing shouldn't come into it. So. It should probably go to the second bar, but I don't think then it phrases off. It depends on how you interpret the harmony, but the way I interpret it, this is it's this harmony, right? It's this, which is 4-1, chord 4-1, A flat major, E flat major, and I think they're equal. I don't think it's. For me, that's just a little bit too, I don't know, soft or something. Not quite. The character is quite. I don't know what's the word. But anyway, I like to think of it as if we think of this as a 4-bar phrase from the double bar, we're going to the second bar and we're keeping it up in the air for the third bar as well. And then coming down to rest in the fourth bar, which is bar 30. So it has a general sort of hairpin shape up to the middle and then down again. In terms of the harmony, that's the way I see it, simply because we're going basically from here to here, which is lifted. And then we're going there to here, right? to the dominant, which sort of nicely answers the phrase. But I think this chord is the most important chord. It's where we're raised. So that's how I would do it. I would talk about it in terms of phrasing rather than bowing. Very, very difficult, this bit, actually, because you're going with different strings and you need different bites for different strings here. Don't forget, for the C string, you need to be quite a bit heavier. And once you've found your heavy sound, then you need to lighten it up to be just like the others. We did agree that it is generally going into bar 33, sort of shaping towards bar 33 and then shaping away. That's sort of what we naturally did, and I think it's right. And feel free to do the hemiola. It works nicely actually with the bowing. There's me talking about bowing, actually, hypocrite. It works quite well. You are going to play it 3 times, so it's nice to have variety. So one of them you could do down, up, up, just to get rid of this, to get rid of the hemiola. We don't want to hear the hemiola every time. I sort of find this, if it's 2nd or 3rd time, I think, yes, we get it, you know it's a hemiola, but I want some variety, which is why there are repeats. Great, and then we're back to the beginning material, and then here, look, bar 30, bar 39, 40, 41, 43, sort of the second phrase of the recap, has the rising semitone motif, which is the Tristan motif. So here it is again, just like Catherine said it would be, the real skeleton of the whole piece, the real subject matter. The A natural really is the most surprising note, so perhaps save your maybe a bit of vibrato, your special colour for that. I like to be very, very heavy and very slevy, very, very slow and very heavy bow. And the B flat is an arrival and a glorious one. So sort of a luxurious, I think, a very, very warm sound. But every time you play that bit, you should think this is a very significant moment, because it is the Wagner moment. It is what inspired the Tristan chord, and it is the whole point of the chromatic harmony of this piece. It leads the harmony everywhere in the whole piece. So you should get excited when you get to this bit in the piece. You should really want to show everyone, actually, you're the most important part here, and you're showing what the piece is all about. And then we have the same kind of crotchets, and then we have the pedal note, which is the same as before, just enjoy the C string now. Doesn't need vibrato. If you choose to add vibrato, that's fine, but just be aware it doesn't need it. What it needs is a slow bow. Slow bow basically equates to an active sound, like with a sound with core to it. So you're really involved every step of the way. And then we have sforzados in forte. So this is the big sort of fairground bit. This is, again, what we use bites for. You can make the decay really quite massive. You can be almost nothing towards the end of each bar, because all the other instruments, they're doing sforzandi on each bar. I can't remember which order. I think it's first violin, second, and viola, or something like that. Beats 1, 2, and 3, right? So let them do that, but you are making sure that the first beat of the bar is still the most important. And the secret to a good accent or a good sforzando is the decay. So once you've got the bite, become almost nothing, and that increases the shock of it. If you make it longer, it simply makes it louder and less shocking. It just sort of completely gets rid of the effect. Although you are, again, doing it 3 times, so there's always room for variety. Now, the trio is really very interesting. Oh, actually, just this bit is tricky, isn't it? I would still go to the A string here. Don't go up. It's just a bit of a shame. It's always nice when you have the same material on one string and then on the other. I wouldn't try to disguise that. That's a bit of variety written in the music for you, so I would take advantage of that. And then again, in the first time bar, really practice these. Same as in bar 25, wherever it was, 26. Really difficult. And do with a 3-1 so you don't get tired, you don't do any stretching. Okay, so the trio, we have this from the first violin. What's nice about that opening, which is you'll find in Mozart a lot, especially in the piano sonatas, is that he's a real master of it is something basically showing you the unexpected. But it's so difficult when you're familiar with the music to remember that. So here, all the way up until there, we could easily still be in E flat major. I mean, it would be a bit of a slightly boring harmony to go to, but it could easily be that, but it obviously goes there. So never forget that that's what the audience is going to hear when they first hear it. And even though we play it hundreds and hundreds of times, that should always influence how you play it, or how the first violin plays it. If they sound a bit too sad, if they sound like it's obviously C minor, you can tell them, well, we don't know yet, actually it's in C minor. The same goes for the second half in the second violin, bar 15 or whatever it is. Which means when we come in on our open C at the bottom, we must sound really impossibly sad, very dark. It is of course our darkest note, which is great. Slow bow. And like I said before, just let the bow do its thing. Once you've found your sound, just sort of allow the bow to keep moving. It does have a shape, and the shape can be sort of whatever you like, but the very important thing is the very beginning of it, starting with that slow bow. So it has quite a light turnaround, so I would keep these crotchets light. A friendly forte piano, it's not a sforzando, so friendly and warm. Again, pedal notes don't need vibrato, but you can if you want them. Just don't make it a look at me vibrato. Make it a I'm helping everything along vibrato. Something like that. I'm not sure if you've seen, there's a Tortelier masterclass on YouTube where he does the Debussy sonata with a really good young cellist. And this young cellist is doing I remember the vibrato, they're trying too hard basically, they're doing a vibrato that's like this. And it just wasn't right for the character of the movie. It was basically a look at me moment rather than this harmony is beautiful. And Tortelier said the harmony is beautiful enough, all you need is to encourage it along with a nice friendly vibrato. So find that vibrato if you want to for these pedal notes. Basically, it's quite a small one, isn't it? Just a little, just a gentle encouraging everything along, rather than never make it a look at me moment. Or better yet, in my opinion, don't do any vibrato at all. I'm only mentioning it because I know lots of people like to do vibrato a lot. For me, I would look for the expression in the bow first. Now, make something, you can also, by the way, make it different. This is minor in the trio, and the next one in bar 10 is major. So in fact, maybe it is a nice idea to add a bit of vibrato, to add a bit of optimism. And then the next bit we have G minor. Very, very, very dark. I would just do open, although it might be a nice idea to do it on C string, actually, it's darker. I don't know. Maybe open sounds good. If you can, make the F major one in bar 22 a bit more friendly sounding, because we are now in F major. F major being the supertonic to E flat major. Let's just have a listen to F major. Right, bearing in mind we started here. Okay, so this is actually a good opportunity to show the difference between. So Mozart is very interested in the relationship between chord 1 and chord 2. Now, chord 2, which is F minor, has an A flat in it because we're in E flat major. Right, that's E flat major. So it needs that F, the A flat. And there is our bar 5 of the whole piece, or bar 2 of this movement. And now Mozart is exploring there instead. And he does that. He did that in the second movement as well. There's quite a lot of that's the major supertonic, which is a real sort of eye-opening moment, sort of like, ooh, wow, you know, like you eat something in a dish that you really didn't expect, and it suddenly, you know, like some, I don't know, a chili or something. So this this F major could do with a bit of vibrato, but it somehow has to just have some life to it, has to have some air to it. So not concentrated and dark like we've been doing before. This is a very sort of like a wow moment. And then same color here. By the way, I just do a long down bow, and then I retake into the 26. I think there's plenty of time. You just let it finish, and then now before I was doing a bar to a bow here, but I have since changed my mind and I'm doing the printed bowing now. Just because I'm a big fan of those little shapes. I think they're nice. This bit's quite tricky. Going from there. Sort of a strange crab movement we have to do. Just practice it slowly and make sure you stay relaxed. Don't forget, if you're getting tired, then you're doing it wrong. And then here, I love these two bars because they remind me of the last movement of Beethoven 135, which we did a few months ago, and it has this harmony. And this is exactly the same harmony here. If you play these two bars with your quartet, it's so beautiful, and it really is exactly the same sort of sound world and harmony, the same key even as that last movement of Beethoven 135, which is so nice. Anyway, so that's the end of that one. How are we doing for time? Great, perfect, look at that, right on time. So we've got half an hour now for this last movement. Now the last movement, just a bit more sort of little technical things we need to be a little fiddly, isn't it, this one? I like bar 3 to feel like it's rushing a little bit into bar 4. Those two up bows, just let them rush along. And then that one can be the more mature one, the ending. You don't have to do that bowing, of course, but it's very nice to do the forward down bow. The secret to doing that is obviously staying relaxed, but very, very little short bows, very, very slow bows, in fact. It comes up again in bar 1 at 110 or something. 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, bar 110. This is exactly like in Beethoven's, I think it's his first or second cello sonata, whichever one is in F major, where we have and the piano has the tune. You know that one? So, and it's sort of like a bow vibrato, isn't it, really? The key is don't use too much bow and stay around here. Stay the middle to the heel, or preferably around the balance point. And you can add a little impulse to the first beat. Sorry, I'll go back to the actual music here. So you can add a little pulse to make it a bit easier, and then you can take that out later if you want. But it's quite a nice thing to have. Anyway, so here at the beginning. So nice to feel like the first little bit of the phrase is excited and going up in the air, and the second bit of the phrase is sort of a bit more mature and a bit more formulaic, really. No vibrato necessary on these. This is timpani. So just be a timpani drum here. Boom, boom, boom. And the same here. And then the forte piano here after the double bar is not aggressive, is again warm. Always think of forte piano in classical music as long forte, more of a round shape. By the way, there it is, that harmony. Anytime we have an A flat, you have to remember that's that's that important harmony that we've been talking about so much. Or it's either that or it's the subdominant. They're so similar, those chords. And they are pretty much interchangeable. This in bar 33, just I don't know what fingering you like to do, but I like to go to the A string as soon as possible. So I like to do 3, 4, and then over to the A string, and then it's all 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. So this means that these notes you need to be quite careful about them. Quite heavy, slow bow near the bridge, and then lighten for the A string. Basically blend them a little bit more. What we don't want is this. We don't want the A string to just massively stick out. So the key is to really bring out the D string more.
What fingering do you do in 18?
This next bit, I like a long forte on the first note. Oh, sorry, go on, Imogen.
Just what fingering do you do in bar 18, please?
Bar 18, 3, 2, 1. Yes. I do a rather silly fingering, I think, because I haven't really thought about it very much. I do that. You see, because I'm really quite militant about going on the A string as much as possible. What's another opportunity? I suppose if I really wanted to avoid that fingering, I would do something like this. You could do 4-1, but then if you do 4-1 here, your 4 and your 1 have to be down at the same time so that your bow can make it smooth. But I find I'm a big fan of the stretchy fingerings, and I like hearing the A string. And it makes the decay of the shape quite nice, actually. I suppose, yeah, I mean, I do first position fingering so much now because I found them to be generally be more intuitive, to work better with this music. And but now I sort of take it for granted and don't think about it as much. So it's good to keep thinking about it, about why, because that was totally an automatic fingering I was doing. But actually, come to think of it, I think it does work better than this would. I just think it's a shame if you're ever trying to avoid something on the cello. If you're trying to avoid a sound that the cello makes, I think that's a shame. You should really seek to enjoy the sound it makes. So bar 35, I like a long forte, not a violent one, a big, healthy, very friendly one. And I don't know if you've got the same addition as me, then you've got these dots in bar 37, 38, and then the equivalent 2 bars later. I don't know what they mean at all, but you can interpret them in many different ways. You can do either the quavers before, you can do them long and then they're short, or you can do short quavers before and make the dots long. Or you can go. I like to think of the shape gradually changing rather than suddenly. These top E flats, I think, are a result of the bottom forte one. And then this entry in bar 43, I do 1/4 stretch. And just make sure this is a very, very loud and rude interruption for what the violin's doing. If you're like me and you have a first violinist who has a £200,000 violin, then you have to really compete with them. Really compete there. Really, it's the same stretch as the very beginning of the piece, isn't it? So, but it's quite difficult because it's quite fast. But it's just such a shame to have to do it here over 2 strings. It just can never work quite as well, which is a shame. Friendly little bites. And then now this is a fun corner. So I just to let you know, I like 6, 5, 4, 3, 53. Bar 53. It goes to. That's sort of the harmony. It goes to C major suddenly. And then to F major. So in other words, it's an extremely bright moment, right? Extremely so, and I would basically just make it long. I think it's a shame to come off the G. I think it's quite a big moment. So I keep it long like that, and if you try it with the quartet like that, you'll see what I mean. It just basically means the harmony. The bright harmony is really bright for just as long as it needs to be, which is the entire crotchet. Now, let's get to the difficult bit here. So this is bar 60. I've just found that these notes, it's good to, by the way, isolate the 2 things. Obviously, we're doing very soft, long notes, or we're doing these very loud, harsh notes. So first of all, get your bite very clean, and then decide how long you want them to be. I actually like them surprisingly long after you've found the bite. So you can actually use quite a lot of bow, but make sure your bite is good. The key to doing a subito piano like that is basically just making sure you're relaxed. if you play that forte and you're anyway a little bit tense, your piano will be a little bit shaky. It won't be as calm as it needs to be. So make sure your forte is just heavy. You're doing it with weight of the arm. And if you're relaxed, the piano is, to be honest, it's fine. Absolutely fine. As long as you just relax before it, then you just gentle little bites again. So much of this is just how you begin the note, isn't it? The very, very beginning of the note, so important. And then we have this beautiful I suppose they should be longer, shouldn't they? These crotchets in wherever it is, bar 76 or something. They should sound very optimistic. And if you're struggling to find sort of an expression for it, take out certain elements. So take out vibrato, first of all. You should really do it with the bow first. There's another one of those bits where the cello ends the phrase. Don't underestimate it like I just did. And it's a difficult one because your up bow is on the C string. So you want it to be lighter than the top note, but also it has to be heavy enough to actually sound on the C string. You can't just play as you would on the A string, because it will just be a fluffy note. You don't want fluffy notes. Right, now we're coming to this bit. Now it's sort of technically piano, isn't it? But I think you can sort of come in and out as you like, but with whatever shape you want. I think again, don't shy away from the A string. If you're trying to overly compensate for the A string, it sometimes comes across as just sort of quite cowardly, I think. I don't think we should shy away from it. So basically what you can do is make the first three notes a bit stronger on the lower notes. And I can assure you that you're not at risk of overpowering anyone else in the quartet here. We have the melody in octaves, I believe, so basically unison. So that, that's not getting overpowered by just a few staccato triplets. So you can be warmer than you might think here. Don't shy away from this. And in fact, it's the same kind of articulation or stroke as we had in those forte quavers in bar 62 or whatever it was. This. So very articulated, a lot of bite on the beginning of the note, but then actually a lot of movement after it to make it resonant. Doing actually quite short. I wouldn't do it too short because then you can't hear the notes as well. When you go up the D string, general rule on the cello, go nearer the bridge. Right. Everyone knows that, but never forget it, and here's no exception. And here it works either way. I haven't decided, but you can either really decay off these, or you can make them long, which sounds quite funny, or you can even exaggerate the shape if you want.
I found it quite fun with those to do down, down, up, up, and just sort of float the bow over the. Does that make any sense?
Down, which bar is this?
88.
Ah.
So
down, up. Ah.
No, change each one. Down, down, up, up in one.
Oh.
Yeah. It's fun to do.
I think that's a nice idea. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. it's definitely one of those places you can sort of do whatever you want. Yeah. It's funny how those places pop up sometimes, but you really, in other places, you really can't just do what you want, can you? Like in bar 84, it would be awful to do it slurred. It would just be awful. So, but here it really works. It's a nice little bit of practice of Bach style bowing, isn't it? There. Yeah. Very nice. Now, okay, and then we have. Well, what's the next important bit to do? So, well, we've already been through the bow vibrato. Oh, the tenutos in bar 105. The most, or 104. In bar 107, the E natural is the most. It's where we're going, right? It's the absolute height of the phrase there. So whatever you do, however you decide to do that, just make sure that that is the most interesting note. I generally basically just bring it out a bit more and maybe add a bit of vibrato. That is what vibrato is for, after all, is look at this note. This note is great. So something like that, I don't know, you can gently grow towards it. And then we have this wonderful bow vibrato actually written in, which is so nice to see. Again, the key with this is relaxed and not much bow at all. If you're using too much bow, it will start doing that. We don't want that. Yeah, I don't know if you can see, but I'm using something like that much bow. Really, really not much. And relaxed, everything relaxed. When you do slow bows, very often the shoulder can come up here. Don't let it. There are actually lots of little w sounds, aren't there? There's not a bite in sight, apart from the first of each four. That's why I call it a bow vibrato, because it's sort of wah 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 wah. It's very much that kind of. In bar 116, you can just sneak in a little, and whatever bow you've ended up on, you can sneak an extra bow into that first one. So I would do probably an up bow in bar 116, and up on the first note and then down, just to make sure this is on a down bow, the sforzando. Again, just make sure that the bite is good and the decay is quite fast here for the sforzando. In fact, yes, I wanted to do the more difficult one later. So I am going to come back to bits here, but because we're in the same bit, can we go to bar 265, around this bit, right? We've got the same kind of thing. On the C string, by the way, it's even slower bow and even heavier. And now, so in bar 263, 263 to 264, I basically squash the hands and make sure I'm on a 1 for this B flat. Because I want that to be there. I don't think it works here. Actually, because again, I'm sort of going back on my own word, but I don't want that to stick out. Maybe it is possible. I'm finding it quite possible now. Anyway, it's a perfectly fine fingering to do it here. Now here, just make sure when you do this, your 4 and your 1 are both down at the same time. Because it's impossible to make that completely smooth if you go 4 like that, 4 to 1 like that. We will hear it. It won't ever be as smooth as if you keep them down for just for a millisecond. that smooth. We don't have that problem in bar 118, but here we do. Or if you're doing it first position, same thing here. Both fingers really should be down if you're wanting to make them smooth. Now back to where we were. So bar, I'm looking around bar 130. These are, again, just enjoy the sort of ring of them. It is a very gentle bite at the beginning of them, and you can encourage with a bit of vibrato. And here, these, same as in bar 290 or something, right? These, you can just do all sorts of silly things going to different strings, and that kind of thing is absolutely fine. I think Mozart would have loved it. You can even go to the G or something though. And you just have to kind of feel that with your viola player. I think it's best not to overthink it too much. I don't like it when in rehearsal people sort of say, well, when exactly are we slowing down and by how much exactly? Like, well, just listen and, you know, that should sort it out. I think that's the better way to do it. So each one should give you information on how the next one will go. So just really pay attention to that, and you should be fine. Right, then we have a sort of recap, don't we? It's a very strange form, this piece. It's well, it is a recap. It's all that again, and then it's just a very large coda at the end. A very, very silly last movement, which is great. So now, where are we now? Let's go to in bar 174. Just be here is just one of those places where your sound should be dictated by the harmony again. So what? Here we have E flat major, but then it darkens, and this is well, it's actually C major, but in the context of F minor, so it's very dark, and it doesn't go where we think it should go. It goes instead to D minor, which then takes us nicely to G minor. These are none of these are the same bow vibrato, right? These are all separate. I think all very, very, very active, very busy. Enjoy the open strings. I find that myself saying that more and more to my pupils. Try to enjoy it. Don't just do something well for the sake of doing it well. Try to actually enjoy the sound you're making. So here, make sure the G rings. And just pay attention to what the harmonies are doing and allow them to either soften or harden your sound. And you can do that, you know, with going a bit near the bridge and a bit slower bow, or the opposite if you want a bit of a softer sound. Bar 199, I feel it would be nice if that were the same bowing as bar 43, wouldn't it? By the way, I do that crazy fingering again, going up over to the A string. This bit's really hard. So if we go through it just a little bit carefully, it's just it just sounds so much better than if you do. It just sounds so muted in comparison. So 4/3 is a good idea. And I do this sort of all stretched, all as in one, and your 2 is your pivot, right? So while you're playing the 2, your hand pivots forward and plays the 4. And it does this sort of huge, ridiculous circle around these notes. And I don't know if you can see, but my thumb is actually, can't really see, my thumb is like far away to make these stretches. I'm not keeping it here because then you can't make them all, or you have to move around a lot. But I think there's no problem with moving your thumb away, making it like that, basically, and then you can stretch an enormous amount. So now we've got this sort of circular motion. It's very, very difficult, but it is possible as long as you stay reasonably relaxed. Then we need to focus on the bow. Very strong on the D string, basically. A little bit lighter on this note, and then heavy, a little bit lighter. So you do, it's quite convoluted, isn't it? But another way of thinking is just try to mentally get the D string stronger and the A string a little bit lighter. I still want the A string strong because it is forte and it's very bright, but just to compensate for the D string. The stronger you make the D string, then the stronger you can make the A string, basically. Very, very difficult bit. And then we have more of this stuff.
Leo, what about 2 bars before that? The A flat octave and then...
Yeah. I do like to go over there. Although I'm not doing it very successfully right now. There, it does work. By the way, this is the same equivalent bar as 6, 5, 4, 3, bar 53. 52 and 53, right? It is the same material here. So perhaps that's why it's not slurred. But that's what I do. Just what you can do, if you're finding this stretch really hard, you can find a way, maybe 4-2 is good. And then you could do 2-4-1. Or something like that, I don't know. Just one thing is for sure, I know that going up the D string is always the disappointing one. It may be the easy one, but we're not here to take the easy route. That one is the one that I can get to sound the best, but it is the most difficult. And the key is really just taking care of the notes that are not on the A string, just a lot, making sure you're really near the bridge. It's quite a lot of work, and the A string does the work for you. Strong all the way. I'm always finding that I always find that if something doesn't sound properly, it usually does if I try it again in a slower bow. Right. Now, I mean, I think that's pretty much all the material. I think, well, how are we doing for time? Well, we're pretty much out of time anyway, so it's kind of perfect time. Let's have some questions if you want any, anything in particular, anything specific, let's have a look in the chat. I didn't pay attention to the chat, hang on. Yes, well, Janet says, shouldn't they match the others' dots? Absolutely, yes, you should all agree on your dots and what you should be doing. Bar 18 fingering.
Places, Leo, where there are dots in the other parts and not in the cello part, because I'm watching before, and it's always a problem to know what to do.
Yeah.
And you were talking about a different sort of stroke on the cello, so I just wasn't quite sure whether we should be watching, and it's a different stroke on the cello, but it might still be a bit lifted.
Do you have a place in particular, or is it the general?
It comes again, bar 35, was it? You were talking about that, saying at first it's not marked in the cello part. But it is the other parts are marked that way. So bar 35, the first 2 bars of the cello, the no dots, and then you're marked dots like we are, but we've been marked dots all the time. So it just happens like that. And there are lots of places where that happens as I was going through.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you're musically, so I'm sure it doesn't matter.
I usually take that to mean, you know, when there are lots of conflicting markings, I usually take it to mean that the composer was probably just putting different ideas in and just sort of adding, questions, giving you questions rather than answers, really. Because almost certainly when Mozart was playing these with his buddies, they would have been seeking to surprise each other and delight each other all the time with different articulations, different markings. And I see no reason why he wouldn't have put that in the music as well. So I always take them basically because it's either that or who knows, isn't it? So I'd rather go with the first answer. I don't like to think of music never works as just with one definitive answer, does it? It changes every time you hear it. You want something to be slightly different. Every time you play it, you feel something slightly differently. So with those kind of things, I would never try to be too accurate, and I would never try to spend too long finding the right answer, and really just looking at it as an opportunity to give you ideas. Yeah. Yes, John.
In this passage, the dots are on the moving quavers. The quavers which stay the same are not dotted, and it's the same in the viola about 4 bars later, which matches the cello and doesn't have dots.
Ah, yes. So then, yeah, it could be a harmony thing as well, couldn't it? Because the harmony is not changing, obviously, here. But here, it's changing every quaver. So what it could mean is to show the notes a little bit more, to show that each of them, if the harmony changes every note, you need to be clearer, basically. Maybe that's what they mean, they need to be clearer. These quavers here, I think they can be a sort of a decay from the forte, because it's basically just big E flat major, right? And then you can really pick out those notes or something. I like that way, and that is sort of the way we've been doing it. Whenever harmony changes very, very quickly, you have to be very clear. That might well have been what he was putting in. That makes a lot of sense.
Does that mean that the upper parts are shorter dotted notes and yours are still dotted notes because they're lifted, aren't they? But they're not going to, they're going to be longer because they're giving the bass line, which is...
Well, shorter, there's a difference between shorter notes and shorter notes that we've made them shorter to make them clearer. So, if you listen carefully, I'm actually trying to make them quite long. Also, originally, I've been told by quite a few people now, originally that the dots, these staccato dots, all they mean is not slurred, to make sure you're not slurring them, which again hints that anything that doesn't have dots can be slurred. But it means, anyway, it means it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect how short they are. You could do them very, very short if you like. It doesn't quite keep in with the character, I think. But yeah, I mean, who knows? There's so many ways you can look at it, aren't there? Again, I think ultimately the key is in the harmony and how fast the harmony is moving. That should ultimately always influence how you play it. And these markings, they tend to make more sense when you look at them through that lens.
Can I just ask something?
Please.
No, nobody's talked about the lovely little counter melody in the coda and things when the second violin gets the dee 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 and the first violin's dee dee dee. None of you have talked about that yet. I was just wondering. I mean, it's such a lovely, it's such an unexpected and lovely thing to just throw that in at the end.
Something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Dee da dee da dee da 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 dee.
Ah, yes. Yes. Well, there's that chromatic again.
What bar number is that, Deborah? What bar?
305. 305.
Yeah. It's such a lovely bit.
I mean, I'm always waiting for that in this movement. Every time it comes back, I'm waiting for that to happen. Once you know it's going to happen. But I mean, it's just a lovely moment, and it always, I don't know, I often find it unsatisfactory when we do it. and I don't know why. And that's
I think
I'm
most
wondering if
probably because it's very, very difficult.
it's difficult. I mean,
That's usually why.
it's a sort
But,
of balance issue, isn't it? Partly, I suppose.
You wonder why they didn't give it to the cellist. It goes to the. I mean, it's always in almost every coda. You will hear. That's the harmony in every coda.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I'm just thinking, but that lovely little counter melody thing, you're right. I mean, I hadn't noticed it before, but it is the chromatic thing again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is so a last little throw of the dice, another idea. Yeah.
It's always a summing up. Remember the coda as well, and this that is that harmony again.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the more you look at it, the more you find how it's all linked, and it all feeds itself with its own ideas. I mean, that bit I would. It's sort of up to the first violinist, isn't it, to do so. Fortunately, I've never had to give Katie any ideas on how to do this bit because she always plays it so well. She does something different every time, but it is a very string. I mean, there's something about anything chromatic that makes you really open your eyes a bit when you play it as well. So I mean, yes, I mean, I don't know what to say about it really.
No, it's just none of you've mentioned it, and I just think that's sort of the key thing of it, in a way.
Yeah, it's it would be nice to maybe that's something I can talk to them about because sometimes we get bogged down in what should we be talking about is how to play it, what's a good way technically to play it, but also what we should be talking about is what is good about it, what is beautiful about the piece. I'll bring it up on Wednesday.
Lovely.
Chat on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and if I don't, you bring it up again. That'd be
Right,
good. Because my memory is terrible. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
It's been fun as always. Stay relaxed and keep enjoying this piece. Yeah, and again, if you have a piano, really just try these chords, and it really it never gets old. It just sitting down at the piano and literally playing that, and then this, and then just do it. Every time you do it, it will just reveal something else about it and why it's so popular and why it's in every coda, and it will influence your playing, which it should. So thanks everyone. This will be of course on YouTube later and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And I will see you all on Wednesday, right? Wednesday morning is the next chat.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks everyone.
Great lesson. Thank you. Thanks everyone.